Grant the mercenary and the merchant Kurt trudged forward. The terrain was rough, each of them was buried under heavy packs. With the loss of the cart and their horse Hal, they were left to haul everything for themselves. Well, anything that they could carry, which wasn't too much. At least Kurt felt it wasn't. He would be lucky to even break even on this trip at this point. Grant would argue otherwise. They had their bedrolls, food stores, cooking equipment, weapons, and a few goods which Kurt got from the elves. Yeah, tight profit margins here. But they couldn't carry much more, not with the terrain they were going over. Rocky and steep here, hard to do on foot, least of all for days. It had been 2 days since they had met the Minotaur. Soon their packs would start to feel too light. Grant knew what was about to come. He'd seen it a few times in his adventures. The sun was dipping down behind the mountain. It would be dark and cold soon. Very cold. Oh, the dangers of mountain travel. They wanted to find a good spot to camp for the night. Somewhere with a stream would be a blessing. Grant's water can was getting a little dry. If only they would have some luck. Even an ounce of it. And that didn't happen. For long, they were forced to curl up in a shallow cavern in the dark, far from any lumber or water. No fire to warm their meals, no light to lift their moods. With a dry mouth, the two men fought for a single week of sleep. The ground rumbled. Something was upon them. Something big, bigger than that Minotaur. Grant gripped his sword tight and stared at the entrance of their cavern. The thin amount of waning moonlight that drifted in was being eclipsed. The heavy breath of something struggling with a task reached his ear. The grating of stone on stone sounded like a moving boulder. Was it a stone golem? No. The sound was wrong. More fleshy. With a mighty grunt, the door to the cavern was sealed. A large thump reverberated through the floor. This time, Grant knew what the sound was. It was the sound of falling trees. Tapping the merchant, Grant guided the man into a wall. A defensible position, well, one they couldn't get attacked from behind at least. A sting of smoke picked at his nose as a spark sprang to life at the far side of the cavern. It started small, but it grew and grew. A moment later it spread through a pile of branches. By the dim light, Grant saw it. A giant, no, a Cyclops. A single eye swirled about in its massive head. Arms thicker than trees ripped several other trees apart. Dead on the floor was a deer, the night's dinner for the Cyclops. Hopefully the two men didn't join it. It hadn't noticed them yet. That was only a matter of time. It was a small error, especially with such a large foe. Stepping back, Grant bumped his armor into the wall and drew the attention of the giant. "Who are you?" His deep voice reverberated in the small cavern. "Oh, me? I'm nobody," Grant sprouted quickly. Well, what fine luck have our two travelers found themselves in today. Hello, and welcome back to Mythical Phylogeny, Aspiring Adventures. I'm your host, Jason Diargos. Today, our gaze has fallen onto the Cyclops. Let's sit for a while and see what we can learn about them. Cyclopses are creatures of Greek mythology, who are known for their giant size, but what distinguishes them from giants is the single eye in their forehead. They are often said to be descendants of Uranus and Gaia, two of the Titans, and they were the first to make lightning bolts for Zeus. Others say that they were descendants of Poseidon. Yeah, we talked about him when we met that Minotaur. The most notable feature is their single eye. I touched on eye placement with the Minotaur last time, but we're going to go into a little more depth here, see as to why one eye is going to be an issue. With eyes wide apart like a cow, you gain nearly 360 degrees of vision. This is important for defense, finding predators and keeping track of allies. But with both eyes forward like a human's, you have more detailed vision, better depth perception. This is important for aiming at prey, detailed craftswork, and other such tasks. This would be important for our Cyclops, wouldn't you agree? They are supposed to be craftsmen, right? They're going to need that detailed vision. So, why do we get better vision with two eyes close together rather than two eyes further apart? Have you ever heard of triangulation? You see, you'll need 3 points to find a position. 1 is the target, 2 is 1 point for measuring, and 3 is yet another point for measuring. Of course, the more data points you have, the better detail you'll get. I'll bet you have covered this in trigonometry and geometry. Oh, so much fun topics, yes? Okay, so we need the detailed vision here, but we will lose that with the wide eyes or with a single eye like the Cyclops has. So what is it that we can do here? How does the eye work? Let's take a quick look. Light will pass through the lens, which will bend and focus the light onto the retina. To focus the light, the iris can open and close to increase or limit the light passing through it. That is also why people who need glasses but don't have them will squint to help focus their vision. The shape of the lens could also be altered to an extent. But there is one additional option. In the evolutionary history of snakes, they have lost their eyes when they evolved to become burrowing animals. But when they evolved back to being surface animals, they re-evolved their eye as well, though they did it differently. For them, they're able to move the lens forward and backwards slightly. This helps focus them the same way as changing the light amount. It may sound like a minor difference, but it does change how the muscles in the eye work. Now, what does this all mean for the Cyclops? How can we create that detailed vision we need? Or will its vision end up being subpar? Could that be the reason that the Cyclops were eventually replaced by Hephaestus for Zeus's work? Or is there another option? What about compound eyes? Surely you've seen a fly crawling over your arm. Look at those large eyes and see the little facets that make it up. These are not true eyes, but they are called motium. Long name short, they are a bunch of photoreceptors, but they're not actually true eyes. Still, they work the same way. You've probably seen those old Hollywood movies where they see the bug-eyed monster's vision as a bunch of repeated images all crammed together. Well, this is complete and utter garbage. I mean, with two eyes, a human would see everything in double. Do you? No? Well, compound eyes produce a single image still, just like yours. The problem with them is that they are good for tracking movements, but not for detail. This is due to the complex neuromechanical systems involved in vision. I don't want this video to be a week long, so we're going to skim over this. Regardless, the basic compound eye wouldn't work here. We need something a little different. Are there any animals which have a single eye? Well, no and yes. Animals may be born with a single eye, but that is due to a genetic mutation. Usually it is in something like the Sonic the Hedgehog gene missing. Yeah, that's a real gene name. Crazy scientists. There are a few select copepods which do have one eye, but those again lack any detailed vision, and those animals are only the size of a grain of rice at the biggest. What they have isn't going to work. We're still looking. What about a chameleon? They have two eyes, which can look in different directions simultaneously. Now, we may have something here. These little lizards are known to be able to aim and launch their tongue at prey. That tongue system is actually really fascinating. I would love to touch it in the future if I find the right creature. One eye can scan for predators while the other is focusing on the prey. This gives this little lizard both monocular and binocular visual options. Wait, monocular? Vision with one eye? And you'll need detailed vision to aim accurately, right? Well, maybe. A chameleon's eyes are rather unique. The lens is shaped differently, and there is a different ratio of the lens size to the retina's area. They also sit further out of the skull than most animals, and they are much more mobile. They also have a small opening to the lens. Just like when I mentioned squinting earlier, could this work for a Cyclops? Have a much larger iris and small pupil? Have the eye sit further out of the skull, almost like it's bulging out? Maybe. There is research into how good a chameleon's single-eye vision is, but it seems promising. Also with the aiming, they don't need to worry about as much with distance since their tongue is lined up with their eyes for the most part. They can get away with general distance when aiming. Still, this does give us a good general baseline. Could it be improved? Of course. Could we create a faux second eye by creating a second ocular nerve attachment? No. The retina is laid out like a visual map. The connection to the optic nerve is a blind spot. Adding a second one would just create an extra problem. Also, you're still only getting a single source of input, So no, that wouldn't really help. But I think using the chameleon's eye seems to be our best bet for the Cyclops. This may be our answer. It'll need a little bit of refinement, but it should work. As for the rest of the Cyclops' anatomy, it'll be the same as the giant, and I'd like to address that at a later date as well. For now, I want to say that we need to thicken up the bones, particularly in the legs and the spine. What's such a big eye? How can you not go for it? Stab it. Use your sword or an arrow. If not, blow some smoke or sand at it. Whip up a whirlwind or start a fire. Set off a bright light right into the Cyclops' face. With a more developed eye, it'll be a much larger blowback to it. Once the Cyclops is blind, you can gain the advantage. Odysseus stabbed one with a sharpened log. You'll need a team to try that, though, and catch it while it was asleep. And that is just the beginning. You've got a big foe here. That means you can go for the legs easier. Severing the Achilles tendons or striking the large femoral artery in the thigh will drop it fastest. And if you're smaller, hopefully you can dodge his attacks easier. A Cyclops is big and will have plenty of power behind those strikes. I doubt most armor will protect you, not even the best plate armor, especially if it can step on you. If you get caught under its feet, then goodbye. It was nice knowing you, aspiring adventurer. Best get back to range here. Pull out that bow I mentioned earlier. Sling some spells. The big foe, dig a trap. Yeah, this will take some prep time for such a foe, but you can bring it down to your level. Get at head height and fight back. Conjure some water and make a giant mud or ice slick. Though if you have a druid, you can conjure some vines and entangle the legs. Trip it up. Let it fall. Just don't be under it when it falls. If you got some trees or boulders, you could try to set a trip line. Now, could you get in some big weapons like, say, a catapult or a cannon? If you want to haul one to whatever battlefield you find yourself on, sure, go ahead. But I would only chance them for the first strike. They do take a while to load up and aim. Unless you can immobilize the Cyclops with that hole. Always watch out for their mages amongst them. Cyclops are intelligent and they are known to be craftsmen. To forge something like thunderbolts, magic is going to be essential. They are intelligent. Some will be friendly and others hostile. Hopefully you can figure that out once you've met them rather quickly, before things turn sideways. While powerful, Cyclops have a single weakness which you could exploit, and you should. Once you have that, the fight can be easier. This is why I have to give our Cyclops friends a 4 out of 10. The body of a Cyclops is of little use. Sure, you can use the bones to make things like a house, but honestly, wood would work better. But why kill them? They aren't stupid. You can make trades with them. Make a deal that can be repeated. Get some of those thunderbolts and other things they make. Maybe they'll have a job that you can do, but they can't. Have you ever seen a Cyclops crawl around through a small cave system? Yeah, it doesn't work well. You'd be amazed at what jobs they can offer you. The Cyclops stood up, its head nearly touching the top of the cavern. "What are you doing here?" "Oh, just traveling," the mercenary replied. Still, his instincts told him to draw his blade. I mean, wouldn't you, facing such a towering foe? Taking that as a threat, however, the Cyclops picked up a tree as if it was a club. A moment later, he came down. The two human men sculled sideways, barely avoiding it. Swinging his long blade sideways, Grant cut into the meaty calf of the one-eyed foe. It toppled to the ground, face first, right into the fire. Rolling around, it screamed in pain. Good. Grant quickly looked around the cavern and watched the flowing smoke. There. It was slipping through a hole in the door. Of course, you couldn't have an airtight seal here, not with a fire. There had to be an escape route for that smoke. Tight, but he could slip through it, but no choice. Shoving the merchant along, they went for it. Their safety relied on it. Grant had no issues scaling the boulder, but Kurt, he was struggling. Dropping down, the muscular mercenary shoved the fat man up the opening, his bulbous belly resisting the narrower route. bellowed the Cyclops as he got up. Its one eye red and watery, ash clinging to its face. "Move!" With all his might, he forced the fat man through the opening, only to scramble in afterwards as the Cyclops moved in. It slammed into the boulder just as Grant got through. They tore off into the night, leaving their packs behind them. But they were alive, and that was what mattered, even if the merchant would be grumbling the whole time. Thank you for watching, aspiring adventurers. The Cyclops can be quite the interesting race, would you not agree? Please return next time where we shall examine the possibility of hybrids. Half elves, half orcs, half dwarves, and half humans, and so on and so forth. Until then, be safe on your journey.